Feeling lonely sucks. And I know from personal experience over the last years, and one of my champions that I work with is super brave and it's giving me permission to share some footage from a coaching session that happened today where she's going through very much the same thing that I was going through. Now, I'm not saying I'm an expert on overcoming loneliness. I'm just a couple of steps ahead of my champion, but I was able to give her share some experience and expertise that helped her. So tune in. It might just help you too, because none of us want to feel lonely, and so many of us do. Here's the footage.
I get really lonely. So I get really lonely. And I know when my girlfriend texts me, like I said, I haven't seen her in a couple of years, maybe 2, 3 years. She's married. Actually, she just told me she's expecting her third child. Anyway, and the first thing that came to me was like, oh, good, somebody's calling me or texting me. That was the first thing that came to mind because the loneliness sets in, and loneliness is, excuse my French, is fucked. It's fucked. And then we start sabotaging ourselves because we think we're not good enough to be a friend, or we're not. All these shitty things come in, this shitty mindset. That's the day I was having. She texts, and I'm like, cool, yes, I'm available to talk. And then I took the phone call. So that was a win-win for me on two ways. A, I was able to share my mess with it in the message. And I felt some interaction, connection with the outside world versus in this little bubble I live in. And I even think her, thanks for calling. And she's like, anytime, let's do coffee. She kind of, like, even though I can't have coffee, I can have tea, but so it was, it was definitely a God moment because I think God knew I needed to speak to somebody that day because I was feeling really sad and disconnected from the world. And it doesn't help when, I don't know about you, but I can't, well, I'm sure you are the same, but I don't know, I'm just asking, but and then the loneliness set in. And I'm like, okay, I'm doing the same thing again. I'm in this job I hate, being isolated, and I feel lonely, and I feel very vulnerable. And then I got the phone call. So yeah,
Do you
I
want
think
more experiences, more feelings, like how you felt during and after that phone call?
absolutely. That's
Okay, so I'm going to invite you to do something.
okay.
Everything starts with a decision. I decide, and how would you describe that feeling?
Um, well, the empath in me felt sad for her, but yet I also felt like I was a cheerleader on the side. It made me feel excited to maybe see where this was going to, like, not excited for my girlfriend going through what she's going through, but excited to give her hope. Like it kind of gave me like butterflies in a sense. Like, that, like just skip that, not that walk, but that skip.
What I'm deciding to feel like a champion with butterflies, like a champion that helps, like a champion who helps others heal. Like I'm deciding to feel, and that's the first decision. Now we have a choice or another decision. I'm, and I'm going to invite you to make another decision. I'm deciding to view my aloneness as an opportunity for growth. So instead of a lonely, you're going to choose aloneness, creating space for you to grow. So when you do interact with people, you are showing up as your true self as opposed to the self that showed up for years and years and years before this.
Mm-hmm.
And I share this because it helped me immensely. And it's just a choice. You have to completely decide, and then you declare that decision every day. I'm deciding, and you say it in the present tense. I'm deciding to view aloneness as space for me to grow so I can have a positive impact on others. And then it becomes empowering. And it's okay if it doesn't feel good. Those negative feelings are pointing to you to something. I'm going to call them your ogres, your goblins that need to be healed, that need to be brought into the light, rather. And we're going to talk about that more today. But one other
But
thing, go ahead.
it's almost like you just sometimes feel, and I know it's old thoughts and beliefs, old thoughts and beliefs, and you sometimes feel like, am I not good enough to be somebody's friend? Am I not good enough for, I'm not even thinking about the dating thing. That's not even a thing. It's like more like girlfriends.
Okay, so your ogre is I'm not good enough to be loved. I'm not good
Yeah.
enough for people to value me. I'm not good enough for people to take a couple minutes out of their day just to text me or call me. That's your ogre. The opposite of the ogre is I am worthy of other people's attention. I am good enough for all the love, to receive all the love, and to give all the love. That's the opposite. The opposite of the ogre is always true, but the ogre stepped in there and it's giving you these false stories for years and years and years. And the unpleasant emotion, loneliness, triggers your ogre story.
Mm-hmm.
And then the ogre story starts running, and that triggers even more emotions fresh and piles up on it. So you have to decide.
Right.
You can't decide not to have the feelings. They're there, they're there. But you can decide to interpret them differently. Ah, that's a sign to let my ogre come out into the light. Because your ogre is your power. And I'm going to explain that today. Your ogre is your power. Remember that. Goblin, gremlin, call it what you like. It's like the shadow work that Carl Jung talks about. But that ogre is giving you a false story right now. But that ogre has that same power to give you a true story,
Mm.
which is I am worthy. But we have to bring the ogre into the light, and we have to expose your misaligned stories and beliefs. We have to expose them for false. And using the law of polarity, if this story exists, the exact opposite exists as well, and that is your truth that will cause you to feel the way you want to feel, and also true power. It's almost like a math theorem or algorithm where
Mm-hmm.
you notice it, you notice that it's unpleasant right away. That means it goes into this department, which means untrue. And my ogre's throwing it at me because my ogre's still in the dungeon. I haven't let him out yet. But if I were to let my ogre out and it was empowering me instead, he would say this, or my ogre would say
Mm-hmm.
this. Maybe your ogre is unisexual, or that is a they. They would say this. And that's the truth. But it's deciding to choose truth. You have important decisions to make and declaring those decisions all day long. If you're by yourself, that's 9 hours you can practice declaring truth
Mm-hmm.
and practice wiring that truth into your brain. Because you're going, in my experience, you're going through this period of these painful loneliness emotions to tell you to get this ogre out, because this ogre is not going to, with this ogre still in there, you're not going to be able to carry out your purpose.
Right. Exactly.
You'll be able to you sustain life as it is, status quo,
Right.
but you will not be able to share your truth without worry what others say and think. you won't you won't be able to keep going on and on unless someone's validating, because that ogre is locked up and it's throwing you these false stories, and
Mm-hmm.
they're so familiar, they take over. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So declare. That's your homework.
Okay.
Declare your decision. And making a decision is the most powerful thing you can do. Lisa, the moment you make a decision and you declare it, and you feel like a champion declaring it, even if you have zero evidence in the outside world,
Mm-hmm.
none, but you declare your decision to God and the universe starts conspiring to help you. And when the ogre throws you the stories, and those stories seem true and familiar, you redeclare your decision. So
I wish I
declare.
had written this down, and I appreciate that because I needed that reinforcement